Okay, so picture this. You're munching on a sandwich, maybe scrolling through your phone, and bam, a question pops into your head like a rogue kernel of popcorn.
Uh-huh.
What happens when that little voice in your brain screaming something's not right
Hmm.
involves your spouse, their ride or die best friend, and the very real possibility that your teenagers are unknowingly flirting with half siblings?
Yikes. Okay, so today you've stumbled into a real knot of a situation, something straight off the Reddit boards at Arbo Updates.
Yeah,
Forget your usual internet time waster. This is a deep dive into a family dynamic so tangled it could trip you up for a week. We're talking trust gone sideways and teenage drama with a DNA twist. It's messy.
exactly. We're looking at one Reddit poster, let's call her the OOP, original poster, who's got this nagging feeling, a suspicion that her husband, Luke,
Hmm.
might be the secret sauce in his best friend Amy's family recipe, if you catch my drift.
I think I do.
And to crank up the awkwardness to 11, Amy's oldest, a 17-year-old named Tom, has got a thing for the OOP's 15-year-old daughter, Sophie. Can you even imagine the family dinners?
Oh, wow. No,
Right.
just no. And we've got 3 slices of this pie for you. The original Reddit post from September 2nd, 2024,
Okay.
and a couple of updates that dropped on September 5th and 6th. And trust me, by the time you get to those updates, you will be picking your jaw off the floor. Seriously.
Okay, I'm hooked. So our mission, should you choose to accept it, and you already have by hitting play, is to make sense of this whole shebang. We're going to break down the key players, sift through the clues, the ones that make sense and the ones that are just plain weird.
Right.
And look at how everyone reacted to this potential bombshell.
Yeah.
We're here to give you the lowdown on what's really going on in this internet rabbit hole.
Oh.
So, where did this whole house of cards even begin to wobble?
Okay, so the bedrock of this whole story is the long-standing friendship between Luke and Amy. The OOP described it as being like a surrogate sibling relationship.
Yep.
Initially, this actually made the OOP feel secure when she entered Luke's life. It sounded like a really solid platonic bond, you know?
Surrogate sibling? Sounds innocent enough, right? Like that friend you borrow sugar from and never pay back?
Exactly. But then you look at the timeline. Both the OOP and Amy started having their families around the same time. It's like they were participating in some, I don't know, unspoken baby boom challenge.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
And here's where things take a left turn. Amy was a single parent through all her pregnancies, and it seemed like she was just like casually dating.
Mm-hmm.
The paternity of her 4 kids, Tom, Kaylee, Adam, and Jenna, was always a bit of a question mark. A big one, actually.
Super hush-hush vibes. The OOP just figured maybe Amy was keeping things private, Luke apparently didn't question it much either. But get this, the OOP actually asked Amy about the dads each time.
Oh, she did? Okay.
Yeah. And Amy just shrugged it off, totally chill about being a single mom. Like, that's cool.
Which leads us to the financial side of things. The OOP and Luke were doing okay financially, and Luke's parents were particularly generous towards Amy, offering her significant support.
Right. The in-laws chipped in.
Yeah, big time. And the OOP wants to make it clear she never thought Amy was taking advantage of their kindness. She genuinely saw her as someone who needed help, not a leech, as she put it.
And Amy was hardcore against birth control. The OOP admits she didn't fully grasp Amy's reasoning, but it was a deeply held belief for her. So
Yeah.
pregnancies happening weren't exactly a shocker, apparently.
Right, okay. Now let's factor in Luke's behavior. He would often visit Amy alone, and these weren't quick hello visits. He'd stay overnight.
Overnight. Okay, yeah.
The OOP initially trusted him completely, viewing their friendship as purely platonic. But these solo sleepovers definitely add a layer of intrigue when you consider the later suspicions.
A big layer. Okay, so the years roll by, the kids are getting bigger, and then wham! These little clues start hitting the OOP like rogue bowling balls.
Yeah.
What were some of those moments that made her go, wait a minute?
Well, the most significant clues were the physical resemblances. In her initial post, the OOP is careful not to give too many details to protect everyone's privacy, but she does mention that Amy's children certainly look like they could be Luke's.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty direct.
It is. Without getting into specifics, yeah, that's a pretty strong statement.
It's those little things too, right? Like Kaylee having this really uncommon allergy that Luke also has. That's not just a coincidence you brush off.
Exactly. That's a huge one. And the twins, Adam and Jenna, particularly Adam, apparently look a lot like Luke.
Mm-hmm.
As Tom, the oldest, has gotten older, the OOP has started noticing more similarities in his features and even his personality to Luke.
And here's a big piece of the puzzle. Amy's kids seem to be biracial,
Uh-huh.
which lines up perfectly with Luke being of a different race than Amy. It's like All these little dots are connecting to form a very awkward picture.
A very awkward picture. The timing of things is also pretty hard to ignore. Amy stopped having children right after Luke had a vasectomy.
Whoa, okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's a connection that OOP couldn't help but notice and, wonder about. Seriously wonder.
And let's not forget how Luke acted. The OOP says he's always been like a father figure to Amy's kids, especially as they've grown up.
Right.
It's this bizarre situation where he's a dedicated dad to his own kids, but also seems incredibly involved in Amy's children's lives in a way that goes, well, beyond just being a supportive friend.
Definitely beyond. Which brings us to the teenage element of this drama. Tom, Amy's oldest, starts showing a romantic interest in Sophie, the OOP's eldest daughter. How did that whole situation unfold?
Well, Sophie, being a teenager, was apparently flattered by Tom's attention. She was even leaning towards saying yes when he asked her out.
Okay. Typical teen stuff, maybe.
Yeah. But being responsible, she talked to her mom first. And the OOP, understandably seeing all sorts of red flags slapping in the breeze, potential half-sibling romance being a major one.
Oh, yeah. Huge EE red flag.
Put the brakes on that situation faster than you can say incest. She used the "he's too old for you" card, which wasn't a lie, but definitely wasn't the whole truth,
Gotcha. Smart move, maybe. The reactions from Luke and Amy to this budding romance were quite telling. They both agreed with the OOP that Tom and Sophie shouldn't date,
Right?
but their responses seemed almost indifferent, like they were just going through the motions, figuring it was just a teenage crush that would eventually fizzle out. No big deal.
Yeah, like, oh well, kids.
Yeah.
But Tom was persistent, really putting on the moves. The OOP noticed them spending a lot of time together, even when other friends were around. And she got this uneasy feeling that something was going on under the radar. She even saw Tom getting a little too touchy-feely with Sophie, and Sophie wasn't exactly pushing him away.
Oh, okay. So that must have put the OOP in a really difficult position. She wanted to tell Sophie what she suspected, but worried about the massive repercussions for everyone involved.
Oh.
Imagine trying to explain to your daughter that her crush might actually be her half-brother. That's not a conversation anyone wants to have, ever.
No kidding. That's a truth bomb with a serious blast radius.
Yeah.
So the OOP finally reaches her breaking point and decides to confront Luke and Amy together. She lays it all out, the look-alike kids, Kaylee's weird allergy, the pregnancy timing, the vasectomy thing, and the whole Tom-Sophie situation.
Wow, okay, the full list. What was their reaction?
Predictable, maybe?
Unsurprisingly, they went into denial mode. They acted hurt, questioned why the OOP was suddenly so concerned after all these years of apparent acceptance, turning it back on her.
Classic.
Amy, in particular, was portrayed as more outwardly upset and angry about the accusations, while Luke seemed more heartbroken that his wife would even think such a thing. Like, how could you?
That's that classic move, right? Make the person asking the legitimate questions feel like they're the one causing trouble. They had convenient explanations for everything, it seemed.
Oh, I bet.
Luke even agreed to take a DNA test, which sounds like progress.
Ugh, there's the but. Amy absolutely refused to let her children be tested, flat out.
No way.
Yeah. That's a major roadblock in getting to the truth, isn't it? The OOP ended up having a pretty significant argument with Amy, with some harsh words exchanged about the financial support and accusations of the OOP acting superior. It got ugly.
Oof. So the OOP is stuck in this limbo of suspicion with a potential DNA test for Luke, but no way to confirm the other half of the equation. Hang on, because here comes the plot twist you didn't see coming.
Okay.
The second update hits, and it involves Sophie and Tom in a way nobody expected. What happened there?
This is where the story takes a seriously unexpected turn. The OOP, understandably upset and unsure what to do, finally decided to confide in Sophie to warn her about the potential implications of her feelings for Tom.
Right, the dreaded talk.
And Sophie's reaction was the furthest thing from what she anticipated, like way off.
Nope. Instead of shock and tears, Sophie, with Tom right there backing her up, drops the bombshell that they already suspected Luke and Amy were having an affair and that Luke might be their dad.
Get out. Serious.
Seriously. Apparently, Tom had overheard some seriously shady conversations and even some questionable noises coming from Amy's room that pointed directly at Luke.
Whoa. Okay, these kids are detectives. So these teenagers had basically connected all the dots months ago. They noticed the same suspicious clues the OOP had, the looks, the timing, everything.
Yeah. And get this, their whole romantic interest in each other. It was a complete act.
What?
A calculated plan to try and force Luke and Amy to finally come clean about what was going on. Like create an awkward situation they couldn't ignore.
Dude, talk about a teenage rebellion with a side of espionage. That is wild.
Totally. All those awkward glances, the hand-holding, the lingering touches the OOP witnessed, it was all a performance. They weren't actually crushing on each other. They were trying to expose their parents' potential secret.
Wow. Their plan actually backfired a little when the OP was the one who immediately shut down the idea of them dating. They were confused as to why she seemed more concerned than the two adults who were potentially betraying their families. That's when Tom confronted the OOP about why she was so against them dating, probably trying to gauge if she knew anything about their suspicions.
Smart kid.
Yeah.
And the real kicker, Sophie straight up told her mom to divorce Luke.
Ouch.
Hearing that from your own kid has got to be a punch to the gut. Tom even offered to take a DNA test to compare with Luke's.
Okay, brave.
And they both agreed to keep the whole thing a secret from Luke and Amy. Talk about some seriously sharp teenagers.
It's incredible how these young adults took charge, showing a level of insight and strategic thinking that the adults in their lives seem to be missing entirely. This also really highlights the breakdown in communication and trust within the family unit. It's kind of sad, actually.
Yeah, it really is. So armed with this wild new information, the OOP then talks to her in-laws, Jim and Kat. What did they have to say about all this potential family drama?
Well, Kat, the mother-in-law, revealed that she's had similar suspicions about Luke and Amy's relationship for years.
No way. Finally, someone else sees the smoke. It can't just be the OOP's overactive imagination then.
Exactly. Kat had noticed that they were much closer than they let on and had even suspected they'd crossed a line in the past. She'd apparently mentioned it before.
Okay, validation. But what about good old Jim, the father-in-law?
Yeah.
Still on the denial train?
Oh, yeah. Jim, on the other hand, is in complete denial. He's always told Kat she's imagining things and that Luke and Amy are just like siblings and would never do anything inappropriate. He's sticking to that surrogate sibling story hard.
It's that classic dynamic, right? One person sees the giant flashing neon signs, and the other is wearing blinders and earplugs.
Totally. Kat even pointed out the obvious. Surrogate siblings aren't actual blood relatives, so a romantic or physical relationship was always a possibility. It's not like they're actually brother and sister. But Jim wasn't buying it. Still isn't.
Wow. So this conversation with the in-laws really reinforces the OOP's feeling that her suspicions aren't coming out of nowhere and that there's a history of others questioning this dynamic, even if one of them won't admit it.
Definitely gives her some backup, yeah.
So where does all this leave us? We've got a tangled mess of secrets, teenage masterminds pulling the strings, and the potential for a DNA test that could detonate everything. What are the big unanswered questions, and what could happen next?
Well, even with Sophie and Tom's revelations, we still don't have concrete proof about Luke's paternity of Amy's children. It's still just very strong suspicion backed by, a lot of circumstantial evidence.
Right, no smoking gun yet.
Exactly. And Tom's plan to try and gather more direct evidence, like setting up a camera that shows how determined they are to uncover the truth, it's kind of intense.
Yeah, that's taking it to another level. In the OOP, how's she feeling?
She's understandably feeling a massive wave of relief now that she's confided in Sophie and Tom and knows she's not alone in her suspicions. It's like a weight has been lifted, even though the main problem hasn't been resolved. She's not crazy,
Totally. That validation must be huge.
But the really big question mark is the planned DNA test involving Tom and Luke, which they're planning to do without Luke and Amy knowing.
Sneaky guess.
Super sneaky. That has the potential to completely change the landscape of this whole situation. For everyone.
All right, let's wrap up this wild ride. The biggest aha moment has to be the shocker that Sophie and Tom weren't actually smooching and had already put on their Sherlock Holmes hats regarding Luke and Amy. Seriously, who saw that coming?
Nobody. The key takeaways here are the intricate nature of long-term relationships, how damaging unspoken suspicions can be, and the surprisingly sharp minds of teenagers who saw right through the adult's facade.
Right. Give the kids some credit.
Absolutely. And this story is far from over, with potential DNA results and major confrontations looming. It's tense.
We hope this deep dive into internet drama has given you a fascinating look at a very human, albeit messy situation full of twists and turns that would make a soap opera writer jealous.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a stark reminder that things aren't always as they appear, and the people we think we know best might be navigating secrets that could turn our worlds upside down.
Definitely makes you think. And think about this. What's the real impact of secrets kept within families and close-knit groups? How do these hidden truths warp relationships? And what unexpected events can force them into the open? And if you were in the OOP's shoes, knowing everything you now know, what would your next move be? Divorce, like Sophie said. Wait for the DNA. Confront Amy again.
Tough call. We highly encourage you to jump down the Reddit rabbit hole yourself. We'll put a link in the show notes to see all the initial reactions and theories from other readers. It's fascinating stuff.
Oh, yeah. The comments are always gold.
So you're dying to know, what's your prediction for how this whole chaotic situation will ultimately play out? And more importantly, who do you think will spill the next cup of tea?